Hari Hari. So we left off where King Uttanapad has retired from the kingdom, from management, from life, and he's gone to the forest to engage in his spiritual, personal development to prepare for moksha, liberation. He's installed Dhruva on the throne of the kingdom. Dhruva is also now married. He has two wives. He was married, his first wife, he had two sons with her. His second wife, who happened to be the daughter of Vayu, the demigod of air. With his second wife, he had a daughter and his daughter and a son with his second wife. So in this manner, Dhruva Maharaj is ruling the kingdom. One day, a messenger came running into the assembly hall. My dear king, your brother Uttam went out into the forest on an excursion, and it appears that he was killed by these yakshas. And when his mother found out, Suruchi, she also went running to the forest to see what had happened. And during that time, actually, the entire forest, it was a forest fire, and Mother Suruchi also perished in this fire. And everyone hearing about this were obviously shocked to know this. However, Dhruva Maharaj shared something that he had not shared before. When Prishnigarbha appeared to Dhruva Maharaj during that time when he was 5 years old and he had meditated, and Prishnigarbha appeared, this was some information Prishnigarbha had given to Dhruva Maharaj. He told Dhruva that your brother is going to find himself in this predicament. He's going to be killed by these yakshas, and his mother is also, out of grief, is going to run into the forest to try to save him, and she's going to be consumed by a forest fire. So Prishnigarbha knew all of this and told this to Dhruva. Dhruva Maharaj relayed this to all the shocked members of his assembly, of his court. And even though Dhruva Maharaj knew this, he was forewarned, even though he did not tell anyone of what was going to happen. He was still, because of his affection for his brother Uttam, he became very much aggrieved, very saddened, and then even furious at what had happened with his brother and how he was murdered by the yakshas. He, without consulting anyone, he got on his chariot, got his weapons, and he went to Alakapuri, which is the capital city of the yakshas. He went to Alakapuri, and by himself, him and his charioteer, he did not, which is actually a very important point, he did not drag his entire country, all of his people, into war with the yakshas. He went by himself. He was overcome with anger, vengeance, and he took it that this was his personal vendetta against the yakshas. And he went and he attacked the yaksha city. And the yakshas responded overwhelmingly. It's described that hundreds of thousands of them came out of the city of Alakapuri, and they engaged in warfare with Dhruva. And Dhruva was a very accomplished warrior in his own right, and he was fighting the yakshas very valiantly, and he was repelling the yakshas and essentially slaughtering them. So the first wave of yakshas that came and tried to subdue and kill Dhruva Maharaj repelled them. The yakshas are creatures who are persons who are, they have mystical powers, magic powers. After the first wave was repulsed by Dhruva Maharaj, the yakshas, they retreated and they resorted to their mystical ability. And they began to create illusions. In this illusion, Dhruva Maharaj was alone there with his charioteer. And in the distance, he saw hurricane coming, huge weather front. And it began pouring rain on Dhruva and his charioteer. And they looked to see what was falling from the sky. It wasn't rain. It happened to be blood. The yakshas, through their mystic ability, were pouring all kinds of, I don't even want to mention it here, all kinds of unmentionables. They were pouring this on top of Dhruva. They had a cyclone whipping back and forth, hurling objects through the air at Dhruva. And it looked as if the creatures of the jungle, wild animals, came to attack Dhruva. And Dhruva was a little bewildered by what he had never seen anything like this before. So he became a little bit bewildered. But then in consulting with his charioteer, he came to the conclusion that this is actually just an illusion. What looks like this impressive onslaught of weather events and beasts and all kinds of things happening. They came to the conclusion, this is actually not an illusion, this is not real. Dhruva Maharaj had an ace up his sleeve. He had a very, very powerful, the most powerful weapon. And he decided that now was the time to use this weapon to clear this illusion that the Yakshas had created. So fixing himself with this weapon, it is a weapon of mantra. He purified himself, his mind, his body, and he chanted the mantra for this particular weapon. We'll end there and continue in the next segment.